Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Joey, and I'm going to be doing a breakdown and prediction for every fight on UFC 261 main card. I've already put out dedicated videos for the top three title fights where I go a lot more in depth. But for this one, I'm just going to do kind of a quick breakdown and prediction for every main card fight because the main card for UFC 261 is absolutely stacked. And I figured if anybody didn't feel like going to watch those, quick, not quick, but those more in-depth prediction videos for the title fights, I figured you could watch it here in all one video. I have 24 subscribers now. It's been 2 weeks. I appreciate every single one of you. If you're watching this right now, make sure to like the video. I really appreciate it. So first off, I'm going to start off with Anthony Smith versus Jimmy Crute. And this is a fight where we're going to see, is the young going to eat the old yet again? You have Jimmy Crute coming in, 25 years old. Anthony Smith, the older veteran now, 32 years old. And I'm going to go with Anthony Smith by decision. And I know a lot of people were probably like, what the hell? A lot of people are probably picking Jimmy Crute. He's the younger guy. He's looking super good lately. He's riding a lot of hype. He looks very powerful. He's been getting a lot of finishes. But Anthony Smith, even though, he's lost 2 out of his last 3, got absolutely brutalized by Glover Teixeira in that filthy finish, in that filthy fight against Glover Teixeira, where he was just being ground and pound, and the people were thinking his corner should have stopped it. Probably took years off of his life just because of it. He got back on the winning track against Devin Clark. Jimmy Crute is coming off let me look that up real quick. He's coming off a 2-fight win streak. 3 fights ago, he lost by submission to Misha Shakurov. But he's riding a lot of hype. A lot of people are high on Jimmy Crute. But I'm just going to pick Anthony Smith. I think Anthony Smith is going to beat him. I don't have enough information on Jimmy Crute to really pick him. I think Anthony Smith is very durable, super tough, has great stamina. Even when Glover Teixeira was just absolutely bludgeoning him to death for, I think it was 4 rounds before it finally got stopped. I don't even remember at this point. It's been so long. No, it got stopped in the 5th round. Okay, so it should have been stopped in the 4th. That's what I was thinking. But even after that, he still, he wasn't completely gassed. He fought Alexander Rakic to a decision, which he got dominated in relatively, but, Alexander Rakic is a great fighter. And we have more information on Anthony Smith, and that's why I'm going to pick him. I think he's going to be able to weather the early storm. I think Crute probably may gas out a little bit. This fight is very hard to pick because Crute has looked spectacular, but for me, I have to see, some quality names before I really start, even in losses, some quality names before I really start getting a feel for a guy's skill set. So I'm going to go with Anthony Smith by decision, and that's just what I think is going to happen. So I'll move on to the next fight, which I'm really excited for. Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall. Chris Weidman, what's there to say about him? Former champion, a guy that I never believed in. A lot of people might hate me for this, but I thought the 2 Anderson Silva fights were absolute flukes. Anderson, I know he was losing the fight, but I felt like he could have absolutely destroyed Weidman on the feet if he took it more seriously. Just my opinion, not saying that's, 100% the truth. If you disagree with me, I can understand your argument. Knocks him out. Then in the second fight, obviously Anderson Silva breaks his leg early. Then Chris Weidman goes on to beat Lyoto Machida, Vitor Belfort before finally getting absolutely destroyed by Luke Rockhold, which I predicted. Then loses to Yoel Romero, then loses to Gegard Mousasi, then finally gets back on the winning track against Kelvin Gastelum, then loses to Jacare Souza, then loses Dominic Reyes before finally getting a decision against Omari Akhmedov in last August. So even though, he's been finished in 5 of his last 7 fights, I think the most disturbing, indictment on Chris Weidman was his performance in a winning effort against Omari Akhmedov. He was absolutely gassed. He looked terrible. Takedowns looked terrible. He looked chinny. He got hit a couple times and kind of snapped his head back a bit. But I just really think the cardio issue was absolutely a disaster. And I don't know if he addressed that for this fight. But, man, it just, for all the time that he's been around, it's looked like he's regressed. And I was never high on him to begin with. I was always a Chris Weidman non-believer. I always thought, he didn't deserve to be champion. Obviously he won fair and square, but I always thought, he didn't belong as champion. I thought, he was a great wrestler. He's had great wrestling, great top game. But I just felt like the striking was just terrible, and his hands are still terrible. His chin is compromised. Uh, Borderline, he should have been retired at this point. Losing 5 out of his last 7 by TKO or KO, that's brutal. A lot of MMA media and Dana White and them and fans and alike would have been calling for his retirement. I'm pretty sure people were. I think he probably should have, but it is what it is. What do I know? Um, but he's coming off the win against Omari Akhmedov. I think he has the right style to beat Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall has always had a problem being taken down. Uriah Hall is primarily known as a striker. But that being said, I'm going to stay on my path of Chris Weidman non-believer, and I think I'm going to pick Uriah Hall by third round TKO. I think Weidman is probably going to win the first 2 rounds. I think he'll be able to get Uriah Hall down. But man, Chris Weidman, it's hard for me to get by that glass jaw. I just can't get by that glass jaw. And so I think that Uriah Hall will eventually be able to catch him, whether it's one of, his spinning back kick attacks, they're that high leg going around from the Ultimate Fighter for years and years where he landed that spinning back kick and knocked that guy out just absolutely brutal in the tough gym. Or, maybe a head kick or catch him with a punch. Weidman's chin is significantly compromised. It seems like every time he gets touched, he just goes to sleep. He has a chin on the same level as Luke Rockhold at this point. So I just can't get by that. I think he'll be able to wrestle Uriah early on, take him down. Maybe Chris Weidman can get a submission, but that chin I just can't trust. And I think Uriah Hall has 15 minutes to touch that chin, and I think he will find a way to touch the chin, and it will be over. Um, as far as the next 3 fights, the next 3 title fights, I did full breakdown videos for those fights on my channel. Go check them out. I actually put the link in the description for all 3 of them if you want to check them out. But for this video, I'm just doing quick picks. Obviously just going over them very briefly and kind of getting to them. So the first fight is Jessica Andrade versus Valentina Shevchenko. Valentina Shevchenko is defending her women's flyweight belt. Jessica Andrade moved up from strawweight. She had just lost to Rose Namajunas in a split decision. Before that, she lost the belt to Weili Zhang in absolute devastating fashion. And I think in this fight, she's going to come, plodding forward, looking for those big shots, John Lineker style of a fighter. She came up to flyweight. She got a great, spectacular win against Caitlin Chugagian. And basically, by default, there's no one else in the women's flyweight division right now. It's super shallow. By default, she gets a title shot against Valentina Shevchenko. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining because for me, that fight is probably the best flyweight women's title fight they can make right now. Jessica Andrade just marching forward, looking to take Valentina's head off. Valentina using her footwork in the 30-foot cage, might I add, which I'm super excited for, that this fight isn't at the Apex. We get the full-size cage. I think she's going to be dancing around the octagon, landing counter shots. I think if she starts to, if Jessica Andrade starts to have any success, I think Valentina can take her down. I think Valentina will be the bigger and stronger fighter. Obviously, Valentina used to fight at 135. Jessica Andrade used to fight at 115. So Valentina is just naturally the bigger fighter, stronger girl. And I think she will eventually get a third-round TKO. I think Jessica Andrade will come in. She'll start to get frustrated because she can't catch Valentina. And eventually Valentina is going to land a perfect counter and KO her in the third round. I'm going to call head kick KO. Next fight is the co-main event and the fight that I'm most looking forward to on the card. Weili Zhang defends her belt against Rose Namajunas, and I absolutely cannot wait for this fight. I'm so excited for this fight. Should be super fun. I think that Rose Namajunas has a chance to eke out that first and second round. I think she's the faster fighter. I think she has a little bit better hands than Weili. I think she has great footwork. But for me, and you've seen in her past fights, even in her last fight against Jessica Andrade, where she won the first 2 rounds, when Rose starts to absorb damage, she really starts to slow down significantly. And I think that will be the story of this fight. I think she maybe win the first round, maybe the second, and then I really think Weili will start to find her more often. I think she'll start to fade, and I'm going to go with the third round TKO prediction for that fight too. I think Rose will be faded by the third round. We'll see. If she's addressed those cardio issues, this will be a super, super fun fight because Rose Namajunas, I've been a massive believer in Rose. I picked her to beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk in the first fight. We're one of the very few people who thought she would win that fight. But there's something almost just, soft about her. And she just, her stamina issues, in her last fight, it's just, and then also on top of that, you have the mental issues. She's talked about, not wanting to be champion and the stresses of these big fights. Um, and I just think all these things will play a small factor and are worth mentioning. Um, and I just think Weili is going to be the better fighter. I think she has the better stamina. I think she's the stronger fighter. I think she can take Rose down. Rose has been susceptible to takedown. We saw what happened to her against Carla Esparza. And Weili has some good grappling. I mean, she took Joanna down, I think, very briefly in their fight. And Joanna is impossible to take down. She has amazing takedown defense. So I think even if Rose, let's say, she has a massive advantage in the striking, which I don't believe she has. I think Weili has the better kicks. I think she'll really start chopping Rose's legs down as well. Because Rose will use her footwork in that 30-foot cage yet again and be able to move around. I think Weili has the ability to just take her down and grind her out that way. So, but I'm going to pick Weili by third round TKO. I think Rose will fade starting in the third round. And I think Weili will eventually get that finish, either third or fourth round, but I'm going to predict third round. So let me move on to the main event. Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal 2. The rematch that I don't think anybody was really clamoring for. I think this fight got put together because the UFC wanted to come back, have a live audience, and they wanted to really stack the card. And Jorge Masvidal, ever since that brutal Ben Askren flying knee KO, his name has just blown up. And I think they really just put this fight together because of, selling tickets. That being said, we've seen what happened in the first fight back in July. And I know that was on short notice, but it was also short notice for Kamaru Usman too. He was planning to fight Gilbert Burns, where we've seen his strategy in the Gilbert Burns fight was to keep the fight on the feet and not go to the ground. Then 7 days out now, he's switching. Now he's heavily grappling game plan against Jorge Masvidal. Obviously, he doesn't want to stand with Jorge Masvidal. I have been a massive believer in both Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal for a very, very long time. I picked Usman to beat Tyron Woodley, which a lot of people weren't at the time. I picked Jorge Masvidal to beat Darren Till and Ben Askren. I've been a massive believer. I thought Jorge Masvidal might have been able to beat Tyron Woodley for the welterweight belt back when Jorge fought Damian Maia for a number one contender spot, a couple years back. The winner was going to fight Tyron Woodley for the belt. And I said, if Jorge Masvidal can get by Damian Maia, I think he can beat Tyron Woodley. So I've been a massive believer in both of them. But I think just Jorge's kind of plateaued. I think, he is the guy who he's been for years. And Kamaru Usman keeps getting better and better and better. He's one of the bigger welterweights in the division. And we've seen what happened in the first fight. I think Jorge Masvidal, if he wants to win, he's going to have to win in those first 2 rounds. But he can do it. He's super explosive. He has nasty kicks, nasty punches, unorthodox flying knees, and I'm curious to see if he can make some changes in this second fight now with it not being on short notice. And I'm happy that this will close the book one way or another. If he beats Jorge again, there's no more excuses. Kamaru Usman's the better man, fair and square. And I just think that's how the fight will go down. I think it will be Jorge Masvidal trying to take Kamaru Usman's head off. It's not going to work. Kamaru Usman's going to take him down at will, ground and pound him, push him up against the cage. Because Jorge does have decent takedown defense, but his takedown defense has always been his weakness throughout his career. When you get the extra high-level wrestlers or grapplers, they've been able to take Jorge down. Damian Maia won that number one contender fight that I referenced before by taking him down and holding him down. And I think Kamaru Usman is the best grappler in the whole division, So I can't wait for this fight just to see, if he can make the adjustments. But really what I'm looking forward to is some future matchups for Kamaru Usman. I can't wait for the Colby Covington rematch. That first fight was absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait for a potential Leon Edwards fight. That fight would be super fun again. They fought early on in their career. But I really think this fight is going to be another 50-45 decision for Kamaru Usman. A lot of clinch work. It's not going to be very fan-friendly. It'll be fun because Jorge, every round starts on the feet in that space. And Jorge Masvidal is going to come out and look for the kill. And there's a chance that he gets it. But I just don't see it in my prediction. It's just so hard to look back on that fight. And also, look at Kamaru Usman's stamina. It's just absolutely nasty. And Jorge's, he has great stamina, but it's not, no one's on the same level as Kamaru Usman's stamina other than maybe Colby. Um, so that's my predictions for the entire main card of the UFC 261 pay-per-view. I encourage you to go check out the dedicated videos as well. For my 24 subscribers, I appreciate every one of you. Should be doing a post-fight for UFC 261 on Saturday night. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not, and I'll see you in the next video.